The Fox and the Devil by Kiersten White. I am pleased to report that this is a good little historical fantasy detective novel. I put this on my list of most anticipated sapphic books of 2026, but I was a little bit nervous about that. I really wanted it to be good because I really liked the premise of this, but I was a little scared because I've read one other book by this author, which was called Hide. I didn't like that book. I reread my review of it recently, and I did not say nice things about that book. But this one was a lot better. Hyde was really cheesy and like poorly executed, but also a totally different genre, and this one was way better. I thought the prose in this was better. I thought the character work was better. I thought the perspective was better. This was a much better book. If you had given me these two books side by side and taken the author's name off, I would not have said that they were written by the same author at all. This was good, and this is going to be a spoiler-free review. There are like several twists here. It is like a detective novel. I will bring up some spoilers, but I'll label it. So like there will be like a little spoiler section, and I'll put like the word spoilers on the screen somewhere. And then you can skip that if you don't want spoilers. But for the most part, I'm not going to spoil all the little intricacies of the plot here. But the general plot is we are following a 25-year-old detective. She's from Amsterdam. Her name is Annika von Helsing. 5 years ago, her father was murdered by this woman named Diavola. And Diavola now haunts her constantly. She is absolutely obsessed with finding this woman, finding this killer. There's just something about her. One, it's a little gay, and two, obviously there's some supernatural elements going on that our main character doesn't know about at first. She just assumes that this is a crazy lady. But she's a crazy lady who smells like ice and is involved in some other murders as well, some other very strange murders. Our main character has become a detective who is hellbent on tracking this woman, this serial killer, all across Europe, across all of these crimes, to avenge the death of her father. This takes place in the very late 1800s. It ends in the year 1900. I think maybe the epilogue is in like 1901 or something. But we're right around the year 1900. She is a 25-year-old bisexual woman. No one takes her seriously. All the other detectives, like the real detectives, like look down on her until she actually like helps them solve crimes. She's a very, very, very good detective. She's also solving crimes that have nothing to do with this woman. Or sometimes she's finding crimes that she thinks have something to do with this woman, but they're actually not. But she's very headstrong, and she's very smart, and she knows herself, and she knows what she wants, and she's very determined. And so she, even though she faces this sort of discrimination, she doesn't really let it bother her. She has a group of friends that she works with regularly, that she likes. Like her ex-boyfriend, who is also bisexual, and then his situationship photographer guy that he also works with. There's like a will they won't they there, and then she has like some other friends. Her father was also a detective, I think. Like he was doing stuff. He was a guy. He was someone kind of important, and he was more preoccupied with work than with her. And so like she really wants to avenge him. Like this idea that she could impress her father, even though he was never impressed by her because she was a woman and he didn't give a fuck. But her father has this friend named Joren. I was listening to this on audiobook. I'm gonna guess his name is spelled like Joren or Jorgen, but it did sound like she was saying urine the whole time. So her father's friend Joren and his daughter. No, not his daughter. So that's some other guy. It doesn't matter. She has like a found family of like friends here and like relations and sort of acquaintances that she does work with regularly who like know her. And then like her tighter knit group as well that she's like traveling across Europe, tracking down this woman with them, and they're in on this whole conspiracy of like who this woman is and how she's serial killing all these people. This is the most convoluted explanation. I'm so sorry. You'd think I'd be better at this by now, but I'm absolutely not. I'm giving you so many extraneous details. She's a detective hunting down this serial killer. And the serial killer very often leaves her notes and like knows that this woman is on her trail. And she actually witnessed the murder of her father. That's how she knows it's this woman. That's how the woman knows her. It's this whole thing, and it's very gay. This is so Killing Eve. Like, this is such a Killing Eve kind of story. I was even wondering, like, could this have been Killing Eve fanfiction? I don't think it was. The only, like, Killing Eve thing we're missing here is that Diavola, our murderer, is not Villanelle. She does not have Villanelle's whimsy and extravagance and outlandish personality. She's more subtle, like she's playing like a cat and mouse game, but she's not over the top like Villanelle is. And Annika is a young woman and not an old MILF. Sandra is not old. I'm so sorry. That sounded so bad. She's not an older MILFy character that's interested in this younger assassin woman. Our murderer here is a supernatural creature who is much older than this 25-year-old detective, so that's not similar. One bit of spoilers. Here's a little spoiler section, like skip it, very brief. I'll put the word, whatever. One of Annika's like friends, partners, does get murdered in this to the serial killer. It's giving Bill in the club in Berlin. So we have the cat and mouse chase all across Europe. We have the homoerotic longing. We have the obsession and the deterioration of every other aspect of Annika's life that isn't involved in, this work and this hunt. What else we got? What else is Killing Eve? Like the notes. I mean, that's the cat and mouse thing. It's giving Killing Eve. It's very Killing Eve. And it's giving Killing Eve season 1, not season 4. I don't know what was going on there. I don't want to talk about it. It's too soon. But I don't think this was literally Killing Eve fanfiction that got published. I was just thinking that because so many fanfictions are getting published now. But I think if this were a fanfiction, a Killing Eve fanfiction, I would have heard about it on Tumblr, probably. So I don't think this was literally Killing Eve fanfiction, but it is marketed as Killing Eve with vampires. Now, I went into this thinking, vampires. As did, I'm gonna guess, most people reading this book, because the description is literally a Van Helsing detective tracking down a serial killer with vampiric ties. That's what the description is. If you are looking for vampires, like bloodthirsty, sexy, blood-drinking, contemporary, modern idea of vampires, this is not that. You will be very, very disappointed. I do like this book, and I do recommend it, but I do think it sort of needs to be prefaced with, like, expectations. I think you need to sort of know what this book is before you go into it, because I think even just, like, the marketing and descriptions could give you a false sense of what this is, and you might expect something totally different, because this was different than what I was expecting, but I still had a good time with it. Normally I'm mad when my vampire books don't have more vampire stuff in it. I think like Hungerstone by Kat Doan, that was a popular book recently that came out last year, and I like that. It's a Carmilla retelling, but it is not heavy on the vampirism, and that was my biggest critique of that. And that would have been my biggest critique of this book as well if it hadn't been so Killing Eve. I really, really liked Killing Eve, and so I was just having a fun Killing Eve time. And I didn't really care about the vampires, even though I was expecting this to be a vampire story, and I was expecting to care about the vampires. I got distracted by something else I liked just as much as vampires. So I wasn't complaining about the lack of vampires, but this is not a vampire-y story. This is a detective novel more than it is a fantasy novel. There's definitely fantasy elements, but honestly our main character doesn't even really think about fantasy elements until like halfway through the book. Like she just thinks this is a serial killer. And so we don't start researching like what this could possibly be, what this creature could be, how they're doing this, until like halfway through the book when like more supernatural elements start happening. I mean, you as the reader know this is supernatural immediately because of the description, and also just because of like, who the fuck smells like ice? What the fuck are we talking about? Like a genius serial killer who just fucking smells like ice and never leaves a trail and is always like 2 steps ahead of them. We know that. And also the murders are kind of fantastical. So the murders are kind of giving Hannibal, I guess, sort of Killing Eve as well. So all of the murders are very different. They've all got a stylistic flair to them. It's giving Hannibal, not exactly to that extent, where it's like performance art and the serial killer's like really playing it up for the detective audience necessarily. But like, some of these people were like eating their own livers or eating each other's livers, or like got their brains scooped out with like the Egyptian embalming hooks that they used. So they're all like different and like funky and like weird. And I like that. I liked Hannibal as well. But we are missing the over the top personality serial killer vibe here in Hannibal and in Killing Eve. And we're missing the vampire thing, like over the top, sexy bloodlust vampires. This was more like traditional folklore kind of vampires. If you're into that, there's a lot more of that here. And it's based in European tradition. And there's reference to like other creatures. I'm not like that into cryptid folklore in that area, time, region. I don't know. If you're into that, you'll probably like this a lot. I don't remember what I was saying, or like what point I was trying to get to. But anyway, I would recommend this book if you want a Killing Eve historical detective, gay, slightly vampiric fantasy novel about murder and investigations. I liked it. This is a spoiler section for things that I kind of want to say that could change your reading experience. Again, I think this book, the description sort of gives you a different idea of what this is, and I think this book also has some twists that will alter your perceptions of like what this is and what you wanted out of these characters. I found the twists mildly disappointing. Not really for me, but I could see other people being upset about this. I could see people not liking this book because they wanted vampires, and I could see people not liking this book because they wanted like more Killing Eve-ness with it. So like, here's some spoilers that I don't think knowing them would ruin your experience. If anything, it might like kind of color your experience in a different way, because there are like some twists, and so like if you know them, like you're looking at things in a different light. But there are some twists that like might turn you off of this. So if you want to know that, listen. But you can skip the spoiler section if you want. Okay, so like I guess twist number 1, is this a twist? Diavola, not a vampire. She's not a vampire. So this is not a lesbian vampire novel. So again, if you want a vampire novel, it's literally not a vampire novel. But she's some other kind of Greek creature. She's from Lesbos. That's fun. Gay. Again, I was reading this on audiobook, and so like the word, I had to Google the word, and it took me a minute, and it was not spelled at all how I thought this word was spelled. I was calling it like Ricola. I think she's a Ricolicas. I think that's what she is, which is something I've never heard of. Which is some kind of like revenant spirit that like feeds on energy and is immortal, and like some kind of, you know, bad creepy thing that's like sort of vampiric, but it's not vampires. So we don't have a lesbian vampire story. Twist number 2. Diavola is not the serial killer. This could be disappointing because like the fun of Killing Eve is that like Villanelle's a crazy fucking serial killer. And you sort of expect that at this. For most of this book, you think that Diavola is the serial killer, and she's the one leaving all these murders behind. But actually, she is tracking the serial killer as well. The serial killer is Dracula, Diavolo, some guy, just some man. This was a little disappointing for me too, because again, I'm thinking Killing Eve. I love Villanelle. Villanelle is the heart of Killing Eve. And you know, like, I want like sexy evil serial killers. Like that's fun for me. I want sexy evil lesbian serial killers. And this is just like some woman, and so she's not evil. She's kind of trying to stop the bad guy. Whatever, I guess. I don't know. I like villains. I like sexy villains. And then it also does turn into like Killing Eve season 3 when we learn that Diavola is not the bad guy. And then she teams up with the team that's, you know, tracking the murders, and they realize that they've got the wrong person. But they're gonna go after Diavolo, which is like his real name. I don't know. It's Dracula, I think. And I don't really know if he's a vampire or not. I forget if it like explicitly says. He might be a vampire, but she's not a vampire, or he might be also some kind of not vampiric, but vampiric related sort of creature as well. I don't know. I didn't care, because he's not the sexy evil serial killer. He's just the evil serial killer. He's just like some fucking straight man. That's not a sexy evil lesbian. I don't care. So Diavolo becomes one of the good guys and helps him, you know, take down the real bad guy. Which was fine. I mean, I liked it. A little disappointing for people who want sexy villains. Me. It's me. I'm people. Like, imagine if Killing Eve had been like, actually, Villanelle didn't kill any of those people. You'd be so pissed. So, like, I could see someone reading this being like, yeah, Killing Eve, a serial killer, awesome. And then she's not a serial killer. And they could be really disappointed. So I feel like a lot of maybe the negative reviews of this book might just be people being disappointed that it wasn't what it was sort of marketed as. But I think if you go into this mostly blind, like I did read the description, but I don't read a lot of description. Or like I try to skim it, or like I'll read just part of it and not the whole thing. I try to go into most books blind. And so because I went into this blind, I do think I liked it. But I could see other people being upset or misled, feeling misled. But if you know what you're getting with this book, I think you'll like it. If you don't know what you're getting, or if you think you know what you're getting, and that's not what you actually get, you'll be mad about it. But again, if you know what you're getting, or you don't care what you're getting, you will like this. I do think it's well written. I might as well talk about the prose. I'll compare it to Hyde. Hyde was about a bunch of people in an amusement park that they're like trying to play a reality TV show game where whoever is the last one standing gets a bunch of money, but actually there's a serial killer and they're all fucking dying. They're not just getting caught, they're getting killed. And also it's a big cult thing. This town is run by a cult and they have to sacrifice people. It's like, it's dumb. It gets really cheesy and cliche and it's not super well written, and there's a lot of info dumps because there's a lot of character perspectives. And so we just like jump from character to character, all these people in this competition, and then like we just get an info dump of their dumb backstory and then they die and it's like, who cares? I thought like all the twists of the reveals of like the cult stuff was like fucking cheesy as hell and boring and dumb. But that was just like a contemporary horror novel. This is like detective fantasy historical. It's very different. Again, I would not have known that these were the same author if it didn't have the same author name on it. You know what I mean? The only similarity I can say here is that this book does try to do different perspectives as well, but it's little short vignettes. Every once in a while, we'll get some random insight into one of the people that has been serial killed, like right before they get serial killed. I didn't hate that because it's not as distracting. I actually don't know how much it brings to the table. I don't know. Maybe you could honestly do without some of those, to be honest. Maybe it's not that interesting, but maybe it makes some of these cases a little more interesting. I don't know. You could take that or leave that, to be honest, but I didn't hate it the way I kind of hated it in Hyde. The only thing I liked about the perspective shifts in Hyde was the way the characters would see each other. Like, in our main point of view character, like, she would, like, her love interest was, like, someone she was with the whole time, and, like, they knew each other's names, and they would refer to each other by name. But then if we were in the perspective of someone else who was very tangentially related to them, wasn't in their little, like, clique of the game, they'd be like, oh yeah, the lesbians over there. Like, I don't know, the military dyke over there with the shaved head, I don't know her name. And so it's like, it was kind of cool to see how different people perceived each other within that group. But the rest of it was just info dumpy, fucking boring ass dumb shit that I didn't care about. So maybe Kiersten White likes to have a lot of perspectives, but it was more successful in this book, or at least not detrimental. And I guess you could say we also get different perspectives in that we also get Diavola's letters that she leaves for Annika. So we're kind of in Diavola's head, but it's really just like, I don't know, we're reading the letters with Annika, so it's not jarring and it doesn't take away all the pacing or the suspense. It's better here. It's better. The only thing that was maybe a little bit confusing are there are like some kind of time jumps. So again, this spans a couple of years of the search. We know it ends in 1900 at the like Paris World Fair. Is that what it's called? I forget what it's called. They name it several times. It's just on me that I can't remember what it's called. But like the big Paris exhibition across all of Europe. So we get like moments of insight into that. And so like we know that's coming up. And we know the murder doesn't get solved until then. And like sometimes the letters will have a date and like jump around from like the times. And so like maybe the timeline is like slightly confusing, but it never really fucking matters. Don't worry about it. It's fine here. I wasn't even trying to keep track of it because I didn't care. I was like, it's fine. it's straightforward enough. You don't need to keep track of it. Or if you do, it probably makes sense. And then I also like the characters of this one a lot more. Again, we're not jumping around. We're really just with Annika. So we understand Annika. She's very determined. I like that she's, a strong woman in the 1900s. She's very openly bisexual, if not openly, like, confidently. I don't think she goes around just bragging that she likes women, but, she knows that about herself, and she's not going to deny it, and she doesn't feel any shame. And she's got her bi ex-boyfriend, and his gay boy toy. So there's queer people, and, she's openly gay with them in her close friend groups. So she's a good character. She's likable. I like her drive. And then she has her tight-knit little group of friends. I like them. They get personality, but they don't take up too much time. They don't take up too much space, but, like, they aid in the investigation. They all work together. They all have their different roles. That works out well. So the characters are a lot more likable. I think in Hyde, a lot of those people were also not very likable. Like, intentionally, because the people filming the reality show knew that these people were going to get murdered. And it's easier to murder people that no one really cares about. So if someone goes missing, it's like, oh, of course that guy went missing. Like, he had, like, drug problems. Of course he went missing mysteriously. Who cares about him? He didn't get murdered. He just died in a ditch somewhere. That didn't make all those characters very likable for me to read about. And in this, we like our characters. It's good. It's good. So the prose was significantly better. The structure was a lot better. The perspective was definitely better. The only other nitpick I could possibly give, like, to the prose of this book is that sometimes there are lines or ideas that get repeated. So Annika says several times, like, oh, I can't really think about romance because I'm so consumed with this work that the only person I can think about is Diavola. And so I can't do romance. That comes up several times. Like, a girl will, like, look at her, or a guy will look at her and should be like, oh yeah, like, yeah, she's my type, but, like, I'm too committed to my work. And that'll come up multiple times. And it's like, you've already said that. I know this about you. But we're getting real nitpicky. Like, okay, like, you repeated one line, like, 3 times. It's fine. It doesn't take up a lot of time. This does feel like a slow book as well. I guess I'll say that. That's not necessarily a fault at all. But I do think it's kind of a slower paced sort of read. Maybe that's what you're looking for. Maybe it isn't. Something to know going in. Again, she doesn't really know that there's supernatural elements to, like, halfway through the book. Again, there's more twists at the end. It's kind of a slower read, and it's kind of just, like, going to different crime scenes, and there's similarities in all of them. The murderer is, like, taking pictures of them. That's where they're on the trail of, like, the camera has sort of just been invented, and they're like, what is this newfangled technology that apparently this person is using to record all of these murders? And, like, there's something interesting there, but it's kind of slow. I was having fun at all the murder scenes. I did read some other reviews where people were like, it's just kind of the same thing going to different murder scenes, but, like, that's what Hannibal is. But I liked Hannibal. Just something to know. Different tastes, maybe. But I like this a lot. I quite enjoyed myself. And I'm not even one to like slow historical novels. Like, that's not my preference of a book. But I didn't find it that slow. And I did like the historical aspect of this. They kind of play with history a bit, like with the invention of the camera stuff. I like that we travel all across Europe and we get to see all these different places. That's fun, like in Killing Eve. I liked the characters. I liked the premise. I was having a good time. I was very, very glad to see that I also thought the writing drastically improved from Hyde. And that is why I don't like to judge authors by one book, because sometimes you just got a stinker in there, man. I don't know. Or maybe it's the opposite, and this is Kiersten White's first good book. I don't know. I'll have to read more of her books. I think she does have some other queer ones as well. But yeah, this one was pleasantly surprising, and I do think it has an audience. I do also think it could piss off people who just want a vampire story. Don't read this if you just want vampires. You're not gonna find it here. I do feel like I haven't read a really good, like, solid, classic lesbian vampire read in ages. I feel like every gay vampire book that comes out lately is either bad or not very vampiric. Like Hungerstone. Hungerstone was good, but not super vampiric. Bury Our Blood in the Midnight Soil was vampiric, but bad. Where are the lesbian vampires? Where are they at? Where are they at? That just seems like, it seems like such a fucking staple. And I love lesbian vampires. Where are they? Why can I not find lesbian vampire books? I don't know. But the quest continues. But this was a good book. I recommend this one if you know what you're getting into and you like the things I said and you don't care about the things that I said that this doesn't do well or does differently than you expect them to. But whatever. This is good. This is a long video. This is rambly. This is not well organized. I'm so sorry. I don't script these videos. I hope you have a good night. Peace out.